And we also have the chat function here. So welcome everybody. Welcome to those of you who came yesterday and those of you who are new. So this is webinar number 2 as part of our Raise Your Rainbow Vibe. So I posted a webinar yesterday on Reverend Thomas's writing experience, and that was great. We focused on the heart. Today, I'd like to have a little bit more in the way of 2 different things based on our guest. Let me bring up my slides just to anchor us into the topic a bit. So, all right, you should all be able to see my screen a bit. Okay, so this is day 2, and I'm featuring different guests to talk who I believe really do carry that rainbow vibration. So I have hand selected each person because I feel like we need somebody to exemplify, kind of like what does a rainbow vibration look like? What does vitality look like? How do we create that shift? What have these people done? So yesterday I talked about a little bit about our imprint, how we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, a spiritual body. And if we want to go in and course correct and make some tweaks and almost like sculpture, how can we go in and, lead to this new imprint? And I love this quote. You can't go back and make a new start, but you can start right now and make a brand new ending. And maybe in quantum physics, they would say you can go back. There is no sense of time. We are time is a construct that we're working with, but if we can reflect on ourselves as timeless, that we have resilience, that we have the spectrum to traverse along and to create these possibilities. So emotions, so Dr. Wilhelmsson, who I'll call Peter, but he is a doctor, he's a naturopathic physician who's been in practice a really long time. He's very humble. He always just goes by Peter Rabbit, and he has this kind of fun, like the joy of life to him. And he and I were recently traveling to Cyprus with our spouses, and I have a fear of water. Like sometimes I have dreams about water, I'm being engulfed by water, and we were around a lot of water, and Peter had me off to the side and he's like, Deanna, I'm going to teach you a tapping technique for your fear of water. And and I was skeptical. I'm just going to say, because all this tapping stuff, I'm like, what are we really doing here? But I really sat in that moment with Peter, and I haven't had any of those water dreams. Nothing like that, and I feel a bit more detached from it. Like we just recently had some flooding where I live, and I could look at that sense of flooding that was happening in the general area, but without the emotion that I would normally feel about, oh my gosh, what if there's a flood? What if I'm, can't get out or something along those lines? So there are techniques that we can use when we do have these experiences. Now, being that I'm a nutrition scientist, I also think, and so, Peter, being a naturopathic physician, he knows this as well, and many of you do as well, that we also have to tend to the nutritional aspects of emotional expression. Perhaps we're missing a nutrient somewhere, so we can't actually have that realm of healthy expression because we are missing a component somewhere to our neurochemistry. So I want to acknowledge that's really important. So when Peter leads us through his daily routine, I know he's going to bring in some aspects of nutrition and food and how we link in the macronutrients. All of them are important. The micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, and even the phytonutrients. Now we're learning that certain plant compounds act as anti-anxiety agents. So things like flavonoids, which are in cocoa and berries and tea, starting your day with tea. So important. Yeah, that's right. So it's important, even though we have an emotional body, a physical body, they all interact. We need to sustain that physical body and that structure, that foundation, in order to prime the mind, the emotions, the thoughts, all of the non-physical, or what we perceive as non-physical. And I also want to make mention that Dr. Candace Pert did an excellent job of being a way shower in the way of molecules of emotion, how important all of those emotions are. And whenever I'm looking at the research, many times they refer to certain emotions as negative. And I don't actually see any emotion as negative. Every emotion is like a messenger, at least in my world. If I feel anger, I feel like I need to act on something. If I feel grief, how can I move into my heart space a bit more? If I feel fear, I may need to do something for my survival. There may be something in my environment that I need to tend to. So I really like her perspective, this quote: "We need anger to define boundaries, grief to deal with our losses, and fear to protect ourselves from danger." So I just want to showcase this article real quick before we dive in. This is a positive, healthy, vibrant note. I love this article. So it was a study in which the researchers had people track their emotions throughout a week. They had over 11,000 people, and they just did it through an app. And what they found was that people experienced at least one emotion 90% of the time. Now, I was wondering, what are the emotions that they experienced? Here's the takeaway, and here's the incredible aspect. The number one emotion that people felt throughout this week was actually joy. It was joy. Isn't that amazing? Joy followed by love, followed by anxiety. So if we were to focus on like the highlight of like, what would we like to generate? So you can see here, the researchers do classify the emotions as negative up at the top with a color-coded system for all the different emotions. And then at the bottom, the positive emotions. And you can see by the number rating here, the higher the number, the more the reports, that joy. And joy especially came on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I don't know, that's kind of interesting there. So maybe we need to create more of those joy-filled activities. Especially Thursday seemed like it was the lowest day, at least in this study of over 11,000 people. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I want to welcome Dr. Peter Wilhelmsson. He is in Sweden. He's Swedish, but I consider him kind of a Swedish American. He's lived in America as well. I met Peter through the functional medicine world. Peter is one of the most, again, he's humble and he knows so much. Like every time I'm with Peter, I learn a new technique. You know, one time I was visiting him in the Stockholm area, and he was teaching me about the eyes and the different, what do you call that again, Peter? The eye technique, not iridology, but the other one. Right? Yes.
The emotional interpretation of the eye, or the window of the soul. The eye is the window of the soul.
Yes. And it was beautiful just to look at the patterns of the eye and how that may even say something about your emotions and expression. So Peter, welcome. Good to have you here. And I'd like you to dive in wherever you feel appropriate. You have center stage. And the goal is for us to have some kind of physical activity to take away from today to raise our vibe. So I know you wanted to talk about your personal routine, which you are a man of your personal routine. When we were together in Cyprus, you would wake up very early. You'd go swimming in the sea before all of us. You know, just recently in Sweden, you were making snow angels in the snow with just shorts on. Like you're into cold, you're into hot. You know, all these modalities to create resilience. So tell us more about you and what increases your vibe.
Okay, so the last 4 years, basically I've been transitioning toward a happy, healthy pensioner or passioneer. I worked very, very hard for 40 years with clinic practice, wrote 14 books and had a nutrition school and studied a lot. Got my IFM CP and went to like 100 classes, anti-aging and all that stuff. So it's very intense. And now I'm really exploring this wonderful transition of my inner journey and my external journey, and transitioning into this wonderful space of being I call it a passioneer instead of a pensioner. And so now I'm really, last few years, I've been really investigating, okay, how should I start the day? Because I used to, have to pop up and go to work and all that. I just had a few minutes.
Yeah.
And now I devote about like 2 hours in the morning to set up the day. And before I go into the morning routine, I think we should take up this tapping thing. I can tell you a little history of it and why I really like it. And so 1978, actually, there was a Beverly Hills hypnotherapist, psychologist, Roger Callahan, who was actually the head guy in the Hypnotherapy American Association, and he had this fear of water patient called Mary, who he had seen for like a year doing the progressive, like cognitive therapy and the normal psychological and hypnosis, and she had small progress in her fear of water. And then he was also looking into acupuncture, and he just tapped under her eye, just like for fun. And he was in the backyard, so he had a swimming pool nearby, and she never got within 20 feet of the swimming pool. She was very afraid just looking at it. All of a sudden, he tapped on her eye, and she walked over to the swimming pool and she touched the water. And he freaked her out. He thought, she's going to drown. So that was his first connection to, wow, the meridian system can affect emotions. And many of you who take acupuncture, and Deanna is married to an acupuncturist, so I know she loves acupuncture, or it could cause terrible relationship problems. And so do I. So anyway, you feel things happening in your whole system, right? In your energy system with acupuncture. And specifically, he started using it in his psychotherapy sessions, hypnosis sections, using this tapping and learning tapping. And he worked with George Goodhart, who I studied with. I've studied like 1,500 hours of AK and kinesiology. And then I studied a lot of body work and cranial work and stuff like that. But anyway, so he learned that there are certain meridian points, usually end points of meridians, that are connected with certain emotions specifically. So he developed this technique, and he wrote his first book, A 5-Minute Phobia Cure. But it all started with this just sort of like a lot of serendipity, wonderful things happen, so-called just spontaneously as an accident. But he developed this whole technique, and I read about it in the 80s. And then I brought him over here to Sweden in 1992. We had 20 practitioners. And then I started using it a lot clinically and got great results. And I had before that done a lot of body work, because I love body work too. And I noticed how our emotions can be trapped in tissues. So sometimes you're working on somebody's body and they start crying because they've trapped emotions. And this was like the next level to me, that emotions can be trapped in your energy system, and I mean, an acupuncture system is part of, there's chakras, there's different parts of your energy system. But that was new to me, and I was fascinated by it. So I started using it on patients. I got really good results quickly, and they loved it. And not that I discourage any kind of really good therapy, whether it's cognitive therapy, mindfulness, meditation, all these things, hypnosis, whatever it is works. But this is a good adjunct to me. And also, I thought it was so interesting when he discovered psychological reversal. And that is, he discovered that certain patients were resistant to therapy because they had this self-sabotage tape running around in their brain or their emotions. So they would want to do something, but then they would sabotage themselves. This is actually recorded in the Bible, in the book of Romans. At the end of Romans, it says, I do what I don't do what I want to do. And then I don't want to do things, and I do, so there's this conflict, this inner conflict happening in us, where we set on like now is the time people are doing all these, New Year's resolutions, and they, of course, the gyms work really well. They get a lot of money the first 2 months, and then, people stop going to the gym, or all these resolutions, or 5% of the people actually follow through the whole year on their New Year's resolution, because there's something of a sabotage happening. So one of his key inventions, or solutions, where he found these points that help stop this self-sabotage, which I found fascinating. So I'm going to take you guys through a tapping.
Oh, great.
sequence.
Yay.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And as all other things like functional medicine and Christianity and all religions, there has been this branched out. So there's probably hundreds of different tapping techniques.
Yeah.
like a lot of different functional medicine groups. But I stuck with the original. I got training in the 90s, and I've used this original TFT, it's called. But there's EFT. Dr. McCullough talks a lot. Dr. Hyman talks a lot, EFT. There's the tapping solution. There's a lot of sites. There's a whole group of psychologists, the energy psychology group. And the studies in the 90s were amazing because they took groups of these TFT practitioners to after Rwanda, and they helped, tens of thousands of traumatized people who had relatives who were killed or raped or whatever. They went through the trauma of that horrible genocide in Rwanda, and they got a 87% great improvement even after 1 or 2 sessions. So that, and then they've taken groups to Haiti when they had the earthquake, and they've taken groups to Bosnia after the Bosnian breakup or the Yugoslavian breakup. So they, and it's also shown in HRV. I've been using HRV for all my new patients for about 30 years since it really took a forefront. It's really quick, really objective, and you'll see changes in the HRT. There's other people, HRV, heart rate variability, and then there's other people who've done studies with cortisol, DHA, saliva, stress tests. So actually there is some objective data, but I've had great results, and it's so quick. It's just a few minutes, so it's worth trying, and I've never seen anyone who's been hurt by it. So why not? So I've incorporated it for my patients. Yes.
Well, well, let's open this up for questions too, a bit
Okay.
before we get into the technique, because I have a few for you. And one is, you know, what, based on all the patients that you've seen over the years, what do you see as the #1 emotion that people struggle with? And where do you see that the body, is there like a cluster of where those emotions tend to go to in the body? Just like if you're just looking out at the pattern of people, do you notice any specific
Well,
trends or?
yes. The one thing that makes me cry and really saddens me is I see that people are living, they're stuck, and they're not fulfilling their potential, or they're not finding out who they are, or discovering their gifts or their purpose in life, or maybe they know their purpose, but they're afraid to express it. And so I think that's my journey also now, because I was more like a doer, and now I'm more of a becomer. So and I want my doing, my service, to reflect like a deeper becoming or being. So there's a human doing and human being, and how you put those together is, and I had this nutrition school, I noticed like 90% of the students, over 1,000 students, were women in their 40s and 50s. And a lot of the women who came and started their nutrition practices, they had been whatever, bookkeeping or administrative, they'd done stuff, and they had their kids, whatever. But a lot of them, they had jobs or careers or relationships that really didn't accentuate or express who they really were, or they felt stuck. So like it took them 20 plus years to be able to take the step to find out who they are and express who they are and enjoy and love themselves. So I think this, and in psychology, we talk about the locus of control, and you talked about emotions. And a lot of people, they're in a reactive mode. I like Stephen Covey talks about, if you could just create a space between what comes to you and how and then how you react. In other words, you create more space, locus of control. So yes, you express your emotions, but you have a control over your thoughts and your emotions. You start being the master of your garden, or like I got a word like tend your inner garden. Like don't disturb your inner, don't treasure and love who you are and your inner garden, and tend your inner garden like it's your most precious gift. So I think that discovery of who you are, and what your service, what your act of service and your act of love and expressing your gifts in the world, that along, in my own personal development, as long as I'm walking on this earth, every second, every day is a gift. And if I can just, both become and do things that are in synergy or coherence with who I am and develop and grow, that's what I'm on my journey. And it saddens me that so many people are stuck. They can go through 20 years of therapy and still not forgive their partner or whatever, or their neighbor or something. So this little tapping thing is not, it doesn't fix everything. But as I told Deanna earlier, if we work with nutrition, lifestyle, it's not easy because it's hard to break patterns, especially when your family and relatives and society, they're eating pizza and all this stuff, and you're trying to bring in these healthy habits and people are making fun of you. And so it's not easy to be the salmon, swimming against the stream. So I think if you find out and love yourself and you start discovering and having fun and being creative, like Deanna shows us with all her paintings and the way she lives, and then you enjoy that. And then whatever comes up that's a block or a burden or something from the past where you haven't been able to forgive someone or forgive yourself, like we have in tapping, certain acupuncture points we tap when we need to forgive ourselves, and other points like this is large intestine, one that we tap when we're forgiving other people, or we're maybe saying an affirmation, I forgive my ex-husband, whatever it is, for hurting me, and I'm holding on to this pain from that. So I think this technique is just can help people, in this journey of love and forgiveness.
That's beautiful. And Anne is making a comment here. I agree. Another thing is not feeling loved. I've been an EFT coach for 17 years, and one of the emotions that comes out a lot is not feeling fully loved, fear of not being accepted and feeling insecure in their body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Peter, is there a body part that you have noticed over all the patients that you've worked with where there seems to be like, maybe it's the skin that picks it up, or maybe it's the back, or maybe it's the knee, or maybe it's the elbow, or, do you find that there are certain body parts that seem to glom on to that emotional stagnation or stuckness or not being able to move through?
Well, it's easy that it's the trapezius, upper trapezius, because people sit,
Ah,
and so
I feel it.
that's one of my I wrote a 600-page book about sports nutrition, and the studies show that even like I transitioned to a standing desk 15 years ago, and even just transitioning to standing desk, and of course when you're standing, you're also taking a posture more of strength. Then you're sitting, it's easier to slouch over. And so I think because people are sitting, they're already getting, every centimeter that you're moving your head forward, you're creating such stress here. So they're already getting it. And some of us hold on to stress, in our solar plexus, and some of them carry us in lower back, or you carry it up in your shoulders.
yeah.
So I think, and almost everybody, feels good when you just rub their shoulders a little bit. So I think that, people usually go, that shoulder rub.
So true.
So I feel that shoulder rub. They're not as open unless you're really close to them, of you rubbing their tummy, but almost everybody's pretty open. If you don't feel the person is really weird, you're open to somebody just rubbing your shoulders, and it feels so good. So I think a lot of people, where people cry or whatever, express relief, is when you work in this upper cervical area. Also, you have your vagus nerve hair. So physically, I use pain neutralization technique, freeing up, and then everything with tinnitus and vertigo and problems and TMJ problems. You have so many nerve endings. And people have equilibration problems from their teeth. Weston Price taught us that when you start eating ultra processed foods, you get the more narrow face. And if you look at primitive peoples, they have a broader jawbone, and they have beautiful teeth and no cavities, no periodontitis, no root fillings. So I think a lot of people grind their teeth. They hold stress here. They need a guard here. So I think just this the working the TMJ and always freeing the atlas axis, and making sure I have techniques where in the morning I do certain things. I always try to make sure that my upper cervicals, my neck, my shoulders, because we carry so much tension here, and with aging we have so much compression. So most people, when I do cranial or I do chiropractic or something, just extending that. Some people have backswings where where they're upside down, they tip upside down to elongate us. We usually shrink a few inches when we get older. So there's a lot of compression, and people have problems with their joints and their vertebrae because of all the compression. And that, to me, compression is, of course, also spiritual and emotional. This stuckness, this compression. Whereas fluidity and fascia and the flow of water and fluids and fascia and lymph, and you have the lymphatic system coming in through here. So the lymphatic system goes through here, and then it goes and drains most of 75% your left side, 25 in your right side. So right above the clavicle and below the clavicle, that's one of the points. Like in the morning, if you're working on your SMZ here, your big muscle here, and you're doing your lymph massage, and you're opening up your lymph, then you're helping this lymphatic drainage of the brain.
Yep.
So that's one thing I wanted, what I do in the morning. If you're going into the morning routines, or should we take that later? Should we stay on the tapping?
I think we go now, because that's so beautiful. And I think, are all of you kind of resonating with this upper
Absolutely.
neck? Yeah, okay. Take us
Let's
there,
go,
Peter.
Peter,
Take
let's
us
go.
there. Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. So one thing is, a lot of you get maybe chiropractic or other types of treatments, and maybe you try to stretch your neck and so forth and keep it. And one thing that really helps in the pain neutralization technique is that if you take this area under your mastoid here, and where you have the atlas coming out here, atlas axis right here, by the big butt muscle here. If you take that, and then if you pull it down and out, instead of just like doing these things like this, if you're actually, like, one technique is you're actually stretching with your fingers that area while you're doing like these stretches, but you're helping the tissues by stretching them downward and laterally. You're stretching the tissues. That's more effective than just stretching like this. And the same thing here at the top of, under your occiput, under your skull. If you take your hand like a karate chop, and then you're turning slowly, and you're pulling down and laterally, and then you're doing it like this, and you're pulling down like just with 20% pressure, not like super much pressure. If you do that 3 or 4 times on both sides, you're just going to feel like it opens up here. So just keeping, and then of course with your, on both sides, and then of course with your TMJ, you have your masseter and your buccinator here. And if you're, how James, what's his name? James Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he teaches the soft belly, and breathing. And if you just, he's so beautiful. He's a beautiful spirit, and he teaches all these classes in soft belly, and he's so gentle and beautiful. But so if you think of, just doing these little circular motions, like you get in a spa when you have a very expensive a treatment at a spa and they do your face, like just be gentle and love this area and keep it soft. So I think if you don't have a spouse or somebody to massage you and be soft in the in the beginning of the day, if you can find some way to do lymph massage, do these stretches where you help stretch and open up here. I use this also on the lung SCM.
Peter, one other thing just to add to the mix about hydration in the morning, right? Because
Yeah,
what I read was that risk of stroke is highest in the morning. So when we're dehydrated, especially like that exactly everything that
yeah,
you're showing us, that plus the hydration, I think is like awesome for when we first wake up. And also thinking of increased stroke risk and things that certain physiologies might be more susceptible to. We can help to mitigate a lot of that just by opening up that area, creating better
right.
circulation.
So what what I'm developing in terms of my morning routine is now I visualize and take faith and pray for dreams. I didn't think I was like a dreamer type of person or whatever, but I've just got up the courage to believe I can dream good things. And then in the morning, I notice I wake up really clear, and then I'm in this state where I'm in a meditative state. And because I don't have to rush up to work, and I just stay for like a half hour and praying and just giving myself to God and just feeling the oneness and the love and the thankfulness and thanking, making statements of thankfulness and just staying in a meditative state until I feel like I'm filled with this thankfulness and joy. And then I jump up and I do my exercises. I do some of this to open up the lymph and the lymph flow. And then I start doing whatever, like a 7 to anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. It can be like a Zach Bush, if you've seen that. That's a 4-minute routine. But I use weights, and I do like now I do like 60 squats, and then I do this brain yoga with I cross my right leg over my left leg, and then I do like 60 of these, and I do left leg over right leg. So I do 60 of those because I'm stimulating all the acupuncture points here, plus because I'm 70 plus. After you're 60, you'll notice if you're not doing balance exercises like yoga or playing tennis or ping pong or whatever, you're going to lose balance. And so that's one of the things. And of course, a big factor in death and frailty is people, especially here, falling on the ice, and then they break something, they get in the hospital, it takes a long time to rehab, they get infections and they die. So keeping your balance is very important. And so if you do some kind of balance activity, and we know that longevity and chronic fatigue syndrome, one of the things we were taught in functional medicine, even back in the 80s, when we first started, Jeff Bland started interviewing about chronic fatigue, is they can't stand on one leg and balance. You'll see they're very wobbly. People who have viral Lyme's disease, chronic fatigue, burnout syndrome, or frailty, it's often associated with a loss of balance. So that's why I do the Balance Plus in men, especially. Your testosterone, the testosterone goes way down as you age quickly, especially with men. And testosterone is not, of course, only a sexual function. It's like being decisive, and it's like women like a man who can make a decision. So having a man who's strong and can make a decision, even it can be a challenge in arguing or compromising, it's still nice to have someone who knows who they are and can make a decision and say, what are you going to, oh, I don't know. Are you going to go shop? Oh, I don't know. You want someone who's decisive and who can follow through. That's testosterone, or dopamine also, of course. But those, in terms of your exercises, it's your squats, it's using the weights, in your legs, whether you have weights on and you squat, or whatever, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, your these different muscles down there, sacrospinal, supraspinatus, your different leg muscles. That's really raises your testosterone. So when you're doing the squats, you're raising your testosterone. And then if you cross your right leg over left and left over right, you're also doing, you're helping your balance. And then you're stimulating your acupuncture points through the ear doing this. So, and I like to do things effectively. So I love like stimulating my acupuncture points, fixing my balance, and then raising my testosterone and getting energy all with one exercise. Love it. So then you stack things. So I do these, and then I do different weight things. And then I have my mat, which is my newest thing. Ta-da! This is like my turbo yoga mat. So I do my like 30 minutes, and I'm doing stretching yoga, or I'm laying meditating. This is red light therapy and near infrared therapy. But before, they used to have, I mean, most companies just have these boxes, and you need to have skin exposure. So you just have like, you got to take off your clothes, have your shorts on, or whatever, yoga, what do you call it, bra or whatever. You have minimal amount of clothes, and then you expose, your back and your front, your prone and supine. So I'm about, I listen to inner sizing, or I listen to some kind of meditation, and then I'm like 20 minutes on my back, 20 minutes on my front. I'm doing, child's pose, like I'm doing about 10 different yoga poses. And then I always end up with the warrior, and you asked me what my favorite yoga pose was, and you were surprised I said the child's pose. And that's because I feel like I'm submitting to God, my submission, my giving up of my ego, my, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, like zooming out. I like that concept. Like you zoom out and you observe and you're curious. Aha, I have this reaction to this person, or wow, this really triggered me, or wow, this made me do something I really didn't want to do. So you're curious and you're observing and you're understanding you're not the same as your emotional reaction. And you're not the same as that evil thought that's running around your head. Like you can zoom out. So to me, the child's pose is like, oh, I submit my ego, and I submit to God this day. I submit to my higher calling, my high, and then I go into, the cobra and different things, like, yes, I'm going to have the energy. And then at the end, I do this, this warrior thing. Yeah, I'm going to have focus. I'm going to shoot that arrow. I'm going to hit that target. Like, whoa, I'm strong. Yay. So that's what. So I do these stretches and stuff. I'm listening to affirmation. I'm doing visualization. I'm meditating, just laying there too. And then I'm doing about 20, 25 minutes supine, and about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes on my front. And that's been just recently. After Cyprus, I bought this wonderful yoga mat, because I've been looking into this red light therapy for 3 or 4 years, but I didn't want to have these boxes of lights. I thought, why don't they have a mat? And I found, wow, they have a mat with lights on that give you both near infrared and give you red light therapy. And I don't have to stand at my computer, take off my clothes or whatever. So I get that done, 30 minutes, visualization, I'm brainwashing and spirit washing and doing my stretches and all that stuff, and getting red light therapy and near infrared therapy in 30 minutes. Fantastic. Stacking, stacking, stacking.
You so walk
After I
the
get to
talk,
one.
Peter. And you do this after spending like the time I have with you. You do this. You really do. What's the name of the mat so that everybody can look into it if they would like? What's the brand?
It's BioLight shop. It's BioLight shop.
Okay. I'll make a
I can
post
put
on
a
our
link.
group
I can
page.
put a link and a
Okay.
coupon
Okay.
or whatever if you want. But anyway, yeah. So that was my gift. This is my Christmas gift to myself that I got like 3 weeks ago. But I started using it before Christmas because, even as a kid, you like open up presents and then you close them on whatever, you fool your parents. I don't know if you all did that, but I certainly did. So now I don't have to close the present when I open it early. I just use it.
You use it. Peter,
Yeah.
in the interest of time, I just want to be sure we get to the tapping. You mentioned the
Okay.
self-sabotage. So why don't you take us through that? And if we have additional time, we can have questions or we
Okay.
can put those
Okay.
questions on our Facebook page.
All right. So we have, should we take away old stuff first, and then we visualize, like we close down 2022, right? And then we look forward and create 2023, right?
Right.
So let's just do, and I'm doing a very simple one.
Okay.
But as I said, you can learn EFT tapping solution. This one is a little different, but it's all going to help if you consistently do it. So we're going to just start with what we call a gross, like a basic, starting with the psychological reversal or the self-sabotage. And so you have a point here, which we call the karate chop, or it's small intestine 3. And so we're just going to tap. Oh, one thing first. I'm sorry. Now you have to think of something specific. So it doesn't help to say, oh, I had a shitty 2022. I want to clear that away. You have to think of a specific thing that you had a hard time with in 2022, whether it was a relationship or a boss or a sickness or a long COVID, whatever it is. You focus on a difficult situation that's sort of lingered on. So focus on that, and then you give yourself a 0 to 10 rating. 10 is that there's still a very strong stress. 0 is nothing, and don't work on the 0 to 5 stuff. Work on something that's stuck, that's a stress for you or a trauma. So focus on something specific and put a number on it. It's called SUD. So it's a stress, that's a distress. It's a subjective units of distress is what SUD stands for. So anyway, focus on that, get a number. Then we're going to think about that the whole time we're doing this. We're thinking about the stressor or the event or relationship, whatever it is. Okay, so now let's do about 10 to 15 of these karate chops like this. And we're focusing on this stressor. And then we're going to go in on our left. I mean, I'm opposite you, but it'll be above your left nipple under the collarbone, about just medial of lung 1 if you're an acupuncture person. And you're just rubbing that big area, this soft spot. It's where your also your lymph drains, your lymph drains. In this area, we're going to be just rubbing that. And then we're going to think about this, and we're going to go and just tap on, we're going to tap on bladder 1 here, up here, above your, where the eyebrows meet, above your nose. Let's tap on that. And then let's tap on where the kidney 27 under the collarbone where the breastbone is, and let's tap on that. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and tap under the arm, and that's where the women have usually their bra line. It's spleen 21. It's just below the armpit here, about a hand below the armpit, and we're going to tap on that, or bilaterally we can tap this way. And then we're going to complete it with what we call the 9 gamut. And we're going to take triple warmer 3, which is here between the ring finger and the little finger there. And we're going to tap. We're still thinking about that stressor. We're going to look down, close your eyes and go up with your eyes toward the ceiling, and then open your eyes, look down, tap the whole time, go up toward the ceiling, and then look down like your left leg, look down to the ground toward your left foot, go up to the ceiling, look down toward your right foot, go up to the ceiling, and then we're going to go around in a circle like clockwise. So you go, your eyes go left down, left up, right down. So you go around a couple times, then you go counterclockwise round, and then we hum something or sing Happy New Year, Happy New Year, la 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 la. Of course, you got to sing the ABBA song, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Okay, then we count about 10, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 13, 14, 15, and then we sing again, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, na 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 na. Okay, then we go back to our points, our first points. So we're doing bladder 1 here. Then we're doing under the collarbone at the breastbone. That's K27, kidney 27 here. And then we're doing spleen, after that, spleen 21, the bra strap here. And then we've done like 1 cycle. So reevaluate your number and see if it's lower. And people might want to count, say like you went from 8 to 5 or 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 or whatever. So then you can do that cycle like 2 or 3 times usually. But since we're low on time, we're going to go on to the visualization part. So that's like clearing something specifically. So you do that 2 or 3 times, and then there's always a question like in AK, how long does it hold? Or a chiropractic adjustment, how long does it hold? So some things hold a long time. Usually it takes 2 or 3 repetitions, or you might feel like you're free from something, and then some circumstance or relation brings it up again, like triggers it again, and then you just do it a few more times. So you just do as needed. And something I want to give really good tips on this, that also they discovered in TFT, is that if you have reoccurring thoughts and problems and emotions that are sabotaging you, often there's a toxin involved. It can be your laundry detergent many times, or your cosmetics, or some you haven't been detoxing or eating poorly or drinking too much alcohol, whatever. Often there's some kind of toxin. It can be mold in your house that's like blocking it. So there is a connection with toxins and blocking these things. So then, and one thing that really helps this hold longer is, one of my favorite things is the 5-flower remedy, the rescue remedy from Bach flowers. I had a lot of classes, wrote a book on Bach flowers in the 80s, love it. So doing this with taking the Bach flowers for a few days helps it hold longer. Bach flower cream usually keeps, let's say, a release going for 6 or 7 or 8 hours, and then the drops usually for 30 to 90 minutes. So you might have to repeat the drops. So the 5-flower remedy or the rescue remedy, Bach flowers, help you get over emotional blocks and stuff. So that's a good stacking if you need to do that. Okay, now we'll go into the visualization part. So we did this clearing of the old, and now, like what I do every morning, is like we want to visualize a wonderful day, or we want to visualize, something, finishing writing an article, or doing a painting, or whatever. You're having a Zoom meeting with your boss and colleagues, whatever you want to visualize as a more positive experience. Then we can visualize that. You pick one specific thing. You can't like do, I'm gonna have a great day. That's not enough. Specific thing you want, you visualize, you think of it, and then we're going to do this basic getting rid of blocks, just those 2 points. Again, when we're doing the karate chop, like this, again, like 10, 15 times. And then we're going to do that lymph drainage point above your left nipple up at your clavicle here. So we're just going to rub that. Instead of tapping, we're just going to rub and free up that energy, your lymph, everything drainage energy. And now we're going to do what we call collarbone breathing. And collarbone breathing is we're always tapping this triple warmer 3 between the ring finger and the little finger. And then we're always connecting. We're going to do 8 different cycles. We're going to do left K27 with fingers pointed in. Then we're going to have knuckles pointed in. Then we're going to do the other side, fingers pointed in, and then knuckles pointed in. So we've done 4 with one hand. And then we're going to do this hand, fingers pointed in, knuckles pointed in, and then this side, fingers pointed in, knuckles pointed in. And this one, Roger Callahan discovered also releases the cranial fluids and the cranial balance. He worked it out with George Goodhart, the AK mentor. Like George Goodhart was like a Jeffrey Bland of AK, you know. So anyway, so we're going to start. We're visualizing the positive of what we want to create. And we're going to do this breathing sequence. So we're going to breathe in deeply and tap. Breathe out half the way. Breathe out all the way. Breathe in again, halfway. And then we're going to go on to the knuckles. So we're tapping, holding the same spot, but with your knuckles. Breathing in, breathe in. Tap the whole time. Out halfway. Out all the way. In halfway. Okay, now we did 2. Now we move to the next side. We're breathing in halfway. Breathe out halfway. Breathe out all the way. Breathe in halfway. And then we're putting our knuckles against that point again. Breathing in halfway. Breathing out halfway. Breathing out all the way. And then in halfway. Now we've done 4 out of the 8. We've done the one hand. We're going to do the other hand. So we're going to put our fingers against that K27 below the collarbone and near the breastbone, the chest bone here. So we're thinking about our visualization. We're pointing in our fingers. We're breathing in, tapping, breathing out, in the nose, out the nose, out all the way, in. And with our knuckles, in, out halfway, out all the way, in halfway. Now we only have 2 left, other side, in halfway, out halfway, out all the way, in halfway. And then we have the knuckles, the last one, in halfway, out halfway, out all the way, in halfway. Okay, so now we've done that visualization. We do the 9 gamut again. You're doing the triple warmer 3. We're looking down, close your eyes, go up with your eyes closed, and then look down with your eyes open, up toward the ceiling. Look to one foot with your eyes open, up to the ceiling, the other foot, eyes open, and then up to the ceiling. And then we're going to go around in a circle a couple times with our eyes, and then go the other way a couple times. And then we're going to hum something. And then count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 6, and then again. Okay. So of course this is NLP stuff, right? We're activating different parts of the brain. we're getting the brain involved while we're tapping. So we've done that cycle. So now we should be much more free and fulfillment or visualization or our task or our goal or whatever it is, we should be freer to move into that after this. So this is, of course, trial and error over 30 years. They found that these points work really well compared to not doing points or doing random tapping somewhere. So this is what they've learned, and there's a lot of psychologists, psychotherapists, and so forth that use it on thousands and thousands of patients. So I stick to the proven system that is getting results. So, and I have good results in my own life as just a quick fix to get rid of some blocks and some negative thoughts that keep looping around, or emotions that you don't want to have. It's just a nice, easy fix. So I love it.
Peter, any final positive, anything that you want to leave us with? And by the way, we are going to have a recording for everybody. I'm going to put it on our Facebook page. I'm also sending it out to all the people that registered for the call, so no worries on that. And there are some questions. Tamara says, oh my goodness, I feel so happy, almost giddy after that sequence. So Peter, we just have 4 minutes. Any remaining concepts, points, takeaways that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I feel like because of the pandemic and because of technology and more people working at home, or more, it's just such an opportunity to find routines that build up your energy and that make you happy, and like journaling or whatever it is, that looking out nature, hugging trees, what a morning swim, whatever it is that that just prepares you for a wonderful day. Just experiment and find those things that set you up for a wonderful day. I realize and respect that some people have 4 or 5 kids and they have jobs and they have to rush off and all this stuff and they have to just get things done. I totally respect that. But even if you have a 5-minute routine, just 2 or 3 minutes of exercise and whatever, being thankful for 5 things, or writing it down, whatever, just creating the day. So like the locus of control, I use the word, the power to choose, the power of choice, because these past few years have made people feel like victims. You're a victim of this virus, or you're a victim of, and then other people are victim of the conspiracy, or a victim of the government, or a victim of the corporation, or a victim of your past or your genetics. Or it's like there's so much victimization. So anything you do to build up love and a positive attitude and an energy for the day is like an antidote to that victim blockage thing. And then you can spread your light and encouragement to other people, but we have to be free first and feel the love and the connection and the ikigai. We have to find our ikigai, right? Our purpose in life, and then spread that. So just have fun with these morning routines. I mean, I'm just experimenting all the time. This is new, using this mat, and I'm loving it. I've used it like for a few weeks now, every morning, and doing these things. So just have fun with these routines. Find what works for you. And of course, when you travel and you're with relatives and all that stuff, it's okay. You can't keep to all of your routines, but just find what works for you to keep you on top.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much for being a shining light of an example for all of us. To me, you truly embody the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual aspects in great resonance. So thank you for shining your light today on this very special New Year's Day. So thank you
You
all.
all.
And
Love you,
I'll
and bless your
post this.
2023. May it be your very, very best year ever.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Woohoo!
New
Thanks
Year.
everyone for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.